Welcome back to From the Flightline. I'm Joel Gilly. I'm joined by a very special airman with us today. What's your name?
Wesley Parker.
Wesley. And what do you do at Seymour Johnson?
I am an air traffic controller in the tower.
That's a pretty cool job and a very important job to the mission, right?
Yes, sir.
So how did you get into air traffic control? Was that something you came in wanting to do, or?
No, so originally when I joined, I was trying to go firefighting. And you know, when you apply, you take your ASVAB, which is just your placement test, tells you, hey, these are the jobs you'd be good at. Firefighting was just something I wanted to do. I had an interest in it since high school. I was disqualified from that because at the time I, had to wear glasses.
Yeah.
And so looking at other jobs, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. My parents, luckily enough, they knew a little bit about air traffic control. I think they still thought that we were the marshalers, which, are the people on the flight line waving the wands. But they knew that there was a decent future in it, so I applied for that, and everything just kind of fell into place there. It's been a very fun, very challenging job, though.
I know that, and I'd like to hear what your point of view is from the Air Force side. I know that air traffic control can be a very stressful job too, right? So how do you deal with that on a day-to-day basis?
So it can be very stressful, but it's like any other trade where you just, after you've been doing it for so long, you learn, hey, this is what works and this is what doesn't. Just don't do those things that don't work. And a lot of the stress often comes from us training new controllers. So we're constantly training, trying to build up the Air Force, because for the most part, air traffic control is still a fairly small career field. There's plenty of opportunities on the outside with the FAA, so people will get out, go there, and so it's a big turnaround, but something that we adjust to pretty well, I feel.
I'm glad you said that, because a lot of times we talk about kind of that what's next in life after the Air Force. If you decide to get out, and like you said, there's always a need for air traffic controllers this day and age in the FAA world. So, kind of a good thing for you, right?
Absolutely. A lot of people have wondered, hey, why haven't we improved on the air traffic control system? And I know there's been talk with automation as technology starts to advance,
which is a little bit scary.
It's a little scary, but for the most part, you can't replace the actual controllers. Yep. They might improve technology as we go. I know they've talked about like smart glass windows up in the tower, so instead of looking at the radar display that gives me all my information, some of the smart glass technology would ideally, you'd have the plane out the window and it would follow the plane, give you their speed.
Okay, now that's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. It's right now it's straight out of science fiction, but it's something that few people are looking at. So
well, this day and age with all the VR stuff and all that, I mean, it's probably like 3 years down the road.
Exactly. We won't hear anything about it, and then it'll just be a thing.
Yeah. I want to talk about, you said, one of the hardest parts is training new people all the time. Mm-hmm. I know that we talked about how that job is stressful, but also want to talk about how the Air Force trains. I mean, the Air Force training is something that you guys do constantly, which makes your job easier, right?
Yes. So air traffic's a little bit different from other career fields where it's primarily on-the-job training, and it's different depending on which base you go to. Every aircraft, depending on the airframe, flies different.
Yeah.
So with that, it's different speeds that you have to kind of calculate in your head, different ways that they're going to fly. And so I've been here since 2011, and I feel like I've gotten pretty used to how our planes fly. If I were to go to a different base, then be looking at a significant amount of time of upgrade training, depending on what they have over there. And also the airfield's just different. Our pattern has certain outs that we're able to use, so it's mostly just teaching our trainees, hey, what are your outs? It's like a video game,
That's a good point.
You know what's going to work for you, and then what could kind of make things a little bit more difficult for you. So just getting them to see that.
Like the way you put that, yeah. One of the important things too is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Seymour Johnson kind of looks over the entire airspace around Wayne County, right?
So we have a decent portion of it, yes.
Yeah.
So.
And so even civilian, you guys are talking to civilian aircraft too as well, some?
Usually it's either us or the radar facility. So usually they'll talk to us, and whether it's medevac or anything like that, that's primarily the civilian traffic we deal with. Sometimes the Wayne County Sheriff's Office. We'll deal with them. So however we can accommodate them and make their job a little bit easier, and at the same time accomplish our mission, letting our jets fly. So
I think that's cool though to see that the base working with the local authorities and things, you know, kind of cohesively. So pretty cool. Where are you from originally?
Originally from Michigan.
Okay.
About 45 minutes north of Detroit, a little town called Armada, spelled like Armada. They, has one main street and a subway, so it's doing pretty good for itself.
Yeah.
Right now.
How was that transition from Michigan to the Air Force?
It was a fairly easy one. Like I said, it was a small town, but I grew up with a Air Guard base right down the road. Still fairly close to Detroit, and luckily I came from a military family, so I kind of knew what to expect there.
What branch?
All over.
All over.
My great-grandfather was in the Army Cavalry. Great-great-grandfather was Marine, and my grandfather was in the Navy. My father was in the Air Force.
Okay. So you had to follow in the father's footsteps, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Wouldn't have been fun at the family reunion if you wouldn't have, right?
Exactly.
And you said you've been in since 2011?
Yes, sir.
What brought you to the Air Force?
So I graduated high school and I was going to college. I was coaching. I was working odd jobs here and there, and it was fine. But I was just going through the motions. I wasn't really being fulfilled. And anyone that knows me knows that I'm not really patient as a person. I wanted my career. I wanted my career now. One of my wrestling coaches, he was also my youth pastor. I think he could kind of tell, and he was just like, "Hey, you know, have you thought about the Air Force?" And at first, I don't think I was as open to it, but then as the days went on, I was just like, okay, this is for me, and looked into it. My family was very supportive. You know, they went with me to the recruiter's office. I had a very good support system with that, and we did our research, looked up everything. I studied very hard for the ASVAB because I am not a good test taker.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad you mentioned the ASVAB. Not a lot of people mention that, but you know, that is kind of part of the process. But then also, you were in college before, and one of the really cool things about the Air Force is they'll pay for all that now.
yes.
I mean, like, we always like to talk about the benefits of the Air Force, or people who are watching and maybe thinking about Air Force, is that so much education and training is done while you're in there, and you don't pay anything, right?
Yes. So we are, you know, given tuition assistance with the Air Force, and I just graduated from Mount Olive University actually in December.
Congrats.
with my bachelor's. Thank you. And the Air Force paid for the majority of that. I only came out of pocket for a few classes, and it's an environment that it's very strongly encouraged too, which is very nice, I feel, because anything that you can do to better yourself in the process, you're also going to better the Air Force and your working conditions. So.
Yeah. Do you get to go back to Michigan that often?
We do. So a few years ago, I met my wife, and she's from Arkansas, so we try and divide our time up between the two states.
Yeah,
so.
Makes sense. And Seymour Johnson, I assume maybe not your first base since you've been in since 2011?
So it's my first duty assignment.
Okay.
I was in Mississippi for a little while for my tech school, and for air traffic control, our tech school is about 4 months.
Okay.
So really enjoyed my time there, and got to Seymour since back in 2011. And
okay.
It's just been great to see how the community and the base itself has changed and grown in so many ways.
Absolutely. What do you like doing in your spare time?
So my wife is a firefighter for the city of Goldsboro. So any spare time that we get, we usually will go to Cliffs of the Noose, camping if we can do that. We very much so enjoy Jay's downtown.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, well traveled and all that stuff. So we like to stay within the community and just venture out. So.
That's great. Now I know that we talked about you've been here since 2011. What would you say has been your favorite thing about Seymour Johnson?
About Seymour Johnson?
I know we talked about community and.
So I would say the community. I would say you know, a few years ago they started developing the Make It Better.
Yeah.
And that's, for anyone that doesn't know, that's, you know, the clubs on base. It's something that a lot of college universities will do, like, you know, hey, if your passion is underwater basket weaving.
There's literally a club for everything.
There is literally a club for it. Yeah, so you can find your tribe, find your people, and I feel like for anyone, whether you've been in for a few weeks, a few months, or a few years, I feel like that's just something great for people to take advantage of.
Yeah, if you had, you know, a high schooler sitting down, they're maybe thinking about the Air Force. They don't know what they want to do with their future. What, in kind of your 1 to 2 sentences, what would you like to say to that person to convince them on what to do with their future?
Well, first and foremost, it is completely okay if you're in high school and you don't know what you want to do.
Yeah.
A lot of people that did join the military, a lot of them, that's their story. They didn't know what they want to do, and they always wanted to serve. They had a passion for the military, and they found out as they went. My best advice would be to think about what makes you happy, think about what your passion is, and see if you can make that align for your goals and actually make a decent living off of that.
That's great. Anything that I left out you'd like to talk about?
Nothing I can think of.
You good?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your service. We appreciate you stopping by and talking to us today, and hopefully we'll see you again sometime soon.
Thanks, sir.
All right.